Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
Ready to take your nursing career to the next level? At Global Nurse Pathways, we're here to make your dream of working in the US healthcare system a reality. From expert NCLEX exam preparations to personalized consulting and relocation support, led by the incredible Dr. Alice Nalondo, who holds a Doctor of Nursing Practice and is certified as a family nurse practitioner and a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. Our team delivers top-notch training to help you answer the NCLEX exam. Once you pass your NCLEX exam, we will connect you with the US-based recruiting agencies, setting you on the path to an amazing career in healthcare. Ready to get started? We're just a call or a message away. Call or WhatsApp us now at +1 346 328 1110 for the US or +260 961 875 081 for Zambia or email info@embehavioral.com. Let's make your dreams come true together. Global Nurse Pathways, transforming careers, changing lives.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. It is March 22nd, 2025. Welcome to ZBTR TV, and we do appreciate you tuning in. Tell a friend we are live, share the link. Follow us on YouTube at ZBTR TV and Facebook at Zambia Blog Talk Radio TV. We are also on X, ZBTR TV. Today, we have one of the most anticipated conversations and discussions. I've been promising you that we're going to be having a political conversation. However, there's so many political leaders in our wonderful country, Zambia, that we reached out to were not available or they couldn't just make it to the show. However, we managed to find and to get somebody, an upcoming, a strong, vibrant, one of Zambia's celebrated leaders and political leaders coming up, joining us today. I can confidently say from Lusaka, although he's not in Lusaka right now, is Mr. Celestine Mambula Mukandala. He is the National Youth Chairman for the Tonse Alliance, and he's a lawyer by profession and a candidate for the parliamentary constituency seat in the 2026 election. Celeste, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. I mean, I've been looking forward to this conversation, and trust me, our network, our whatever terminology you want to use, they've been looking forward to this, and I trust you are doing very well. Since this is the first time we are having a representative, a leader, an official from the Tonse Alliance, please tell us what political parties comprise the Tonse Alliance and how is it structured?
Well, the Tonse Alliance is an alliance that is comprised of many other political parties in opposition today, and it also includes other alliances. Okay. For example, we've got the People's Pact Alliance, which is part of the Tonse Alliance. We've got political parties such as the PEP, which is, we've got political parties such as Zambia Must Prosper. We've got political parties such as Economic and Equity Party for President Tayali. We've got political parties such as the FDD. We've got political parties such as is it UBZ? So we've got, apart from having political parties, the alliance itself is also comprised of civil society organizations.
Okay.
There is Kupela Youth Foundation. There is it Gen Z Zambia? We've got Asidia, Sasida. It's a youth movement for institutions of higher learning in Southern Africa.
Okay.
We've got other youth movements, civil society organizations. We've got members of the church, and so the Tonse Alliance, like the name indicates, to mean Tonse meaning all of us.
Yes.
It's an all-encompassing alliance which has got a lot of other people that are part of this alliance. So we are now calling it the Tonse Grand Alliance because
Okay.
of the fact that we now have even alliances joining this alliance. And
Oh,
of
wow.
course, the chairperson of the alliance is Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu. And the anchor party in the alliance, of course, is the Patriotic Front. And its president, which is who is Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu, the former president of the Republic of Zambia, the 60th Republic of Zambia, Republic of Zambian president. And of course, the Secretary General of the alliance currently is Mr. Raphael Nakajinda, who is also the Patriotic Front Secretary General. And of course, we have not yet completed with the appointments of individuals into different portfolios. However, for now, we have a chairperson, we have a vice chairperson who is none other than Dr. Dan Pule of the Christian Democratic Party. We also have the spokesperson who is none other than President Sean Tembo, who is the president of PEP. We have a chairperson elections. Is it chairperson women chair lady chairperson who is none other than Madam Kapoma, as well as president. There's a president of a political party there also, and then we also have the person in charge of parliamentary affairs
Yes.
and parliamentary business, who is Brian Munduvile,
Okay.
deputized by State Council Chifumubanda. We have the youth national chairperson, who is none other than myself, Celestine Mukandala. We also have a chairperson in charge of student affairs. So ideally, these are some of the portfolios that have been filled currently in the Tonse Alliance, just to ensure that there is a smooth running of the alliance, just to ensure that the Zambian people start seeing the quality of leadership that as an alliance we are bringing to the fore. And of course, it's an alliance which is all embracing. I think right now, the response from the Zambian people has been extremely good. We managed to field in a candidate in Kawambwa parliamentary by-election to replace Honorable Chilangwa, and we did extremely well. As the alliance, we decided to use NCP, the New Congress Party, as the party that will be using as a special purpose vehicle for elections.
Okay.
So we equally managed to have to field in another candidate in Petauke. In Petauke, of course, we in fact managed to even scoop the seat. So currently, as an alliance, we have managed to start having members of parliament. And the reality on the ground now is that with the kind of response we've gotten from the Zambian people and the youths of Zambia, I think we're on the right track. This is the alliance that the Zambian people are looking forward to. I think this is the government in waiting.
Excellent. Actually, I recognize most of the names that you have mentioned there that comprise the what you call the Council of Leaders. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So that is the Council of Leaders is comprised of all members of the alliance, those that have been admitted into the alliance. Of course, within the Council of Leaders, now we have those portfolios that are being filled in. Of course, we are not done with filling in of these portfolios, but as it stands, those are the ones that have since been filled in.
All right. You have rightly, as we have said in our introduction, that you are the National Youth Chairman for the Alliance, and this appointment came, I believe, not very long ago, a few days ago, and you shared your vision, and I would like to play this video clip, and then we shall pick some discussion points from what you have said in your vision. Let's watch this.
To His Excellency Dr. Edgar Chagwalungu and the esteemed Tonse Alliance Council of Leaders, I express my deepest gratitude for entrusting me with the noble task of mobilizing Zambia's vibrant youth. This honor is not taken lightly, and I pledge to harness the energy and idealism of our young people to drive transformative change. As we approach the pivotal 2026 elections, I vow to mobilize over 75% of Zambia's youth to join and support Tonse, championing the values of democracy, constitutionalism, and economic stability that our alliance embodies. I am committed to empowering young Zambians, amplifying their voices, and fostering a generation of leaders who will propel our nation towards a brighter future. In the spirit of unity and collective purpose, I look forward to collaborating with the leadership of Tonse and the youth of Zambia to build a more just, equitable, and prosperous society for all Zambians. Together we shall overcome the challenges that lie ahead and usher in a new era of hope, opportunity, and progress for our great nation. I remain Celestine Mambula Mukandala, Navakwe 73, Tonse Alliance National Youth Chairman. Thank you very much.
All right, brilliantly done. Now, before we go any further, a lot of people asked me to ask you to explain what does Navakwe 73 mean?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so in the process of coming up with a message for the Zambian people as well as for our constituency,
Yes.
the constituency that we've got interest in, which is Machero constituency, we came up with a message to indicate that we are a team of all-inclusive people. So we indicated that, you know, we have to embrace every person. We have to embrace every ethnic grouping in this country. And the fact is, we have 73 ethnic groupings in this country, in Zambia.
Okay.
So we opted to say, well, Mukandala shall be one who's going to belong to all these people and will embrace all the 73 ethnic groupings, because Matero constituency is a constituency where most of these people have settled. So
Yes.
all the 73 ethnic groupings in the constituency have actually settled in Matero constituency. So whatever we do will be based on the premise of providing unity of purpose to ensure that, as was espoused by our forefathers, by Kenneth David Kaunda, to say we shall be one Zambia and one nation. We want to indicate that it shall be Mukandila Navakwe 73. And of course, it comes at the right time because I am National Youth Chairperson for Tonse Alliance.
Yes.
For all the 73 ethnic groupings of youths in this country. So I am an all-encompassing National Youth Chairperson for all the 73 youths belonging to all the 73 ethnic groupings in this country.
Okay, excellent. So everybody there, you have it. Navakwe 73. That's what it means. Okay. Celestine, in your assessment, you are taking on this huge responsibility of chairperson for the Tonse Alliance as national chairperson. in your this may sound to be like somebody watching may say, come on, that's a trivia question, or in your assessment, what are the major challenges the youths of Zambia are facing?
Well, currently, the challenges that the youths are facing in Zambia currently are very dynamic. But just to zero in very specifics about the challenges, you look at firstly the high cost of living. The cost of living currently in this country is beyond what is expected of a country like ours, you know. So most of the youths are affected, especially on the premise that the other challenge, which is the next one, being that of unemployment and not having a conducive environment to even have employment. So from the onset, when you look at the levels of unemployment in this country, coupled with the high cost of living, our economy is not doing well. The GDP is not doing well. It's at its lowest. When you look at inflation, is at on a double digit, about 16.5 somewhere there. So you find that the biggest challenge that the youths are faced with is unemployment. And you know, just with the issue of employment, to zero it down, when um, when we were faced with this big challenge, just imagine government decided to come up with extremely bad policy, which has failed to manage the electricity, or should I say the energy sector in this country, to the extent that I'll give an example of Central Province. In Central Province, we have over 20 plants processing silicon manganese. Now, these plants that deal in ferroalloys employ over 2,500 youths. Now, from these 2,500 youths, we're looking at direct employment.
Yes.
Imagine as of last year, July, all of these plants were shut down because ZESCO, which is a government utility company in Zambia, decided not to give electricity or power to these plants. So, meaning immediately.
Why? What, did they owe money? What's the issue?
No. It was done because they indicated that because of the drought, they needed to start rationing the power that we had. But the challenge we had was, due to bad government policy, we decided to overutilize the water that we have at the Kariba, you know, under the Zambezi River Authority. We overutilized that. We exported a lot of power to the extent that we had no water left to supply our demand in the local markets. However, government decided not to give these plants electricity. That simply meant that immediately 2,500 employees were declared redundant with immediate effect. Now, the level of redundancy of these, you know, in Zambia, if you have one person working, it simply means this person is feeding a family of about 5. They're having about 5 dependents.
Yes.
So now when you do the maths there, you're looking at how many people who are affected by this bad government policy. So all this affected the employment sector in the country. Imagine how much the youth in this country were affected, all because of bad government policy. But you find that this government was giving power to a neighboring Namibia. And we had a Namibian Foreign Affairs, is it Energy Permanent Secretary, coming to Zambia and thanking us for selling them power. So it's an issue of priority by government. And of course, this issue of employment, like I indicated, coupled with the high cost of living, everything from 2021 up to now has somewhat doubled to the extent that now we are questioning the intention of government, because when you look at the high cost of living, it results, you know, when you have high cost of living like it is right now, you look at things such as inflation, you look at the energy sector, fuel increases in price. Right now, the price of fuel has almost doubled what it was. It was at 17 kwacha, now it is at 34 kwacha. Now, the reality behind that again is we have got a capitalist government currently in Zambia. So you find that the reality is our neighboring country, which I normally refer to as the 11th province of Zambia, which is Malawi. Today in Malawi, we've got people that are buying fuel at 18 kwacha. As of 3 days ago, it was in fact subsidized by government because of elections. So fuel is now being sold at 16 kwacha, Zambian kwacha equivalent.
That is in
And yet,
Malawi.
yes, Zambian kwacha equivalent, which is 16 kwacha.
Yes.
And yet here in Zambia, we are buying it at 34 kwacha. That huge difference
Wow.
does not make sense. So you find that people in Chipata, the neighboring city to Malawi, they are going into Malawi to go and procure cheaper fuel. So now it has become a challenge for our filling stations in Chipata.
In Chipata, yes.
Not only Chipata, you've got Lundazi also on the other side. You've got Chadiza on the other side. All these towns are bordering, and Vubwi, all these towns are bordering Malawi. So now they are buying cheaper fuel. So there's a challenge. The question is, how does a country such as Malawi, whose GDP is smaller than us, whose economy is smaller than ours, it is as tiny as a province of Zambia, having cheaper fuel? What are we doing wrong as a government? What are we doing wrong as a country? For me, I will tell you the reason why we are like this is because of bad leadership. Secondly, selfish and unpatriotic leadership. We have a capitalist government. So, if you look at all these factors affecting the high cost of living, you'll zero it into the fact that the youth in this country is affected by that. Now, the other very critical issue that we need to look at is the issue of a bad education system. Now, a bad education system is what we have in Zambia. The education system in Zambia is one that does not train employers or innovators. It trains employees or people who are going to be dependent on the system. Because of that, there is need for a serious dynamic change of how we reason and how we look at our educational system.
Yes.
So that has really affected the youths of this country. So amongst the many challenges that are facing the youths of this country, those are some of them. And some of them equally include just the fact that the youth are not given, there is no government deliberate policy that is giving the youth an opportunity to be engaged in government.
Okay. We had a little interruption there. I wanted to show something here to do with the employment in Zambia, Celestine. I got this from the, what do you call it? The Zambia statistics website. It says, so that is saying employment in Zambia is at 34%, which means the unemployment is at 60 something percent. Everybody, you can find that. Yeah, you can find that at the Zamstats website. Okay, let's continue our conversation. In your video clip where you talk about the vision for, what do you call it, for the youth, you talk about, and I quote, harnessing the energy and idealism to drive transformative change. We've all witnessed the youth's energy. Help us understand their idealism. What do you mean when you talk about idealism? I think it's frozen. Okay, network issues. All right, what? Somebody is calling you? Celeste, did you receive a call? Hello? Can you hear me? Celestine, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Celestine. Okay, he cannot hear me.
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay, okay, you can hear
Sorry,
me.
I had a disturbance, so I had to just connect to another device for the internet.
All right, that's good. I said the question I asked you is in your video where you share the vision, you speak about, and I quote, harnessing the energy and idealism to drive transformative change. End of quote. We've all witnessed the youth's energy. You know, they are driven. The Zambian youths are driven. They are passionate. Even the former president of the United States, Biden, Celeste, you know this, he quoted the youths of Zambia in his address to the UN about how they came out and voted in a mass. Help us understand what you mean by saying idealism, the youth idealism. What does that mean?
Well, currently, I can tell you that when you look at the statistics that we have currently, Zamstats, you realize that Zambia is actually a young economy. It's also a very young country.
Yes.
Why do I say so? 72% of the population of Zambia is from the age of 35, 36 going down. But from these, you find that 5.3 million of these are youths. They are between the ages of 18, above the age of majority, and 35. So ideally, these youths that we're looking at are the ones that are supposed to make a decision when it comes to anything affecting the country going forward. So the ideas that we're talking about, or looking at idealism of harnessing the youth movement, is one that includes one the innovation that the youth have now. Remember, we are no longer in the olden age. We are in the age which is the I call it the computer generated age. So where, for example, we should be able to identify areas in which the youth can generate resources or income, such as social media. We've got different social media platforms that allow the youth to generate income. Art and industry is another area that we must be able to have a youth participate in the national affairs.
Yes.
Imagine if we had youths coming up with proper art, informing the Zambian people as to what exists in Zambia, the mineral wealth that we have in this country,
Yes.
and we're just trying to have a serious dynamic change. We want to have a revolved youth, one that will be reminded of the likes of Julius Kambarage Nyerere, one that will be reminded of the likes of David Kaunda, one that will be reminded of the likes of Steve Biko, one that will be reminded of Pan-Africanists who really harnessed these countries or these African countries' vision and believed that it can be done by an African. I think that is the kind of dynamic change and dynamic shift that we want to have in this country now. So the youths are being reminded every day that we need to remain patriotic. They are being reminded every day that Zambia has got all it takes for them to take the driver's seat in terms of economic development in the region, which is Africa or Southern Africa, in terms of just dynamic innovation in the globe. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, as a matter of fact, Zambia has got mineral wealth that is beyond what the world knows. But are we using it? We've got the youths that can take advantage of this opportunity that we have as Zambia, the God-given resources that we have. So all that we need is now going forward, we need to ensure that we continue tapping into the talents of the young people. We need to continue tapping into their brains. We need to continue tapping into their innovation. There is so much talent in Zambia, which we have to just tap into it, and boom, we are at another level.
Okay, excellent. Now let me tap into your brain as a lawyer. We're going to switch this conversation to the constitutional amendment debate, okay? Currently,
Yeah.
the system we have in Zambia is the threshold of 50 plus 1, right? The winner needs to get 50 plus 1 of the cast ballots to become a president of the Republic of Zambia. So I would like you, from your legal knowledge, your legal position, to please explain to us how the process, we keep hearing this terminology. How does the process of delimitation works in contrast to the current situation that we have?
Okay, well, it must be understood that the electoral system that we adopted as of 2016,
Yes.
2016, in Act number 2, the constitution that we're using, is what we call majoritarian system. So
Okay.
initially we had what we call first past the post, where winner takes all. The second electoral system we adopted, which is now the current one, is what we call a majoritarian system, where now the winner should have 50 plus 1, 50% plus 1, which is 0.1%, in order for them to become president. Now, what the debate that has been there now, which is including the constitutional amendment, on constitutional amendment, I mean,
Yes.
has brought in issues where government is proposing, for example, that we must adopt yet another electoral system, which is called proportional representation kind of electoral system. Of course, I'll explain just in brief what proportional representation electoral system is. So this is the system that creates a vote base on a threshold where, for example, political parties will be voted into power, and you find that a political party with a certain degree or a certain percentage of votes, total cast vote, say we agree that we'll put it at 0.5% total cast vote for a political party to have a seat in the National Assembly,
Okay.
then that is the case. Now, it's a good electoral system. As a matter of fact, it is one that encourages inclusivity. It is one that ensures that even minority political parties will find themselves in the National Assembly. So it's a system, for example, in Africa, it's a system that is being used in South Africa,
Okay.
where we have political players, even from the smallest political party, being in the National Assembly. So proportional representation as an electoral system, not a bad system. However, the biggest challenge that we've been faced with now is that of ensuring that we have what we call constitutional legitimacy. Now,
Okay.
constitutional legitimacy requires that in order for you to attain that, you need to ensure that the constitution that you give the Zambian people, or the people perhaps, should be one that is all inclusive, should be one that comes as a result of proper consultation from every person. Now, in Zambia, we have had what we call constitutional jurisprudence, where in order for you to amend the constitution, we've been guided from history that the state or the executive arm will come up with what we call terms of reference.
Yes.
And from those terms of reference, then we'll have a commission instituted which will be looking at different areas for the amendment of a constitution. And then they will go down to the smallest ward to have ward assemblies, to have district assemblies, to have constituent assemblies where people bring in their submissions as to whether they are okay with touching their areas of the constitution. But unfortunately, the government, which is the current government, when they were in opposition, there was a bill which was the famous Bill 10
Bill 10,
that
yeah.
was introduced by the Patriotic Front. More consultation was done. Unfortunately, this regime and this leader, the government, the president, is on record indicating that the reason why the Patriotic Front wants to amend the constitution with Bill 10 is because they wanted to put in mechanisms for them to be able to rig the elections. But now the question that most Zambians are asking, it begs more, it brings more questions than answers, of course. The question that most Zambians are asking is, what is the intention of this president today wanting to amend the constitution.
Okay.
Because back then, he had indicated that it is not necessary. It's never a necessity. But now, with regards to the issue to do with delimitation, we had a similar provision in the previous constitutional amendment bill, which was Bill 10, which provided, and the Electoral Commission of Zambia came up with proposed constituencies that they wanted to delimit. The number of constituencies came up to about 94 constituencies that they wanted to divide using the process of delimitation by way of introducing a constitutional provision that would allow them to delimit almost immediately. Unfortunately, that Bill 10 did not pass, but now this government wants to do that. They want to amend the constitution. However, when you look at the current constitution, it should be under Article 58. It has provided that delimitation can be done by the Electoral Commission of Zambia to ensure that they delimit the boundaries of the constituencies. They also delimit the wards and polling stations or polling districts. So that is already provided for in the constitution.
In the current constitution, it's there.
Yes, you can actually change the boundaries. Why do they say that? It's because there are certain constituencies that have got more numbers than others, but others which have got smaller numbers do not have made be in abundance when it comes to the CDF they receive. So the constitution provided that every 10 years, the Electoral Commission of Zambia can delimit constituencies in terms of boundaries, changing the boundaries. So, for example, I'm in Mansa Central right now. You can agree that the next constituency, which is Bahati, has got a smaller population. What do? We increase the boundary for Bahati to ensure that some of the numbers in Mansa Central become part of Bahati. So the polling stations are increased, the boundaries for the constituency are changed. That is delimitation as provided for in the current system of the constitution. And it is allowed for ECZ to do that every 10 years. So the 10 years of the life of this constituency, of the life of this constitution, would mean that we're looking at, is it 2026, which is next year?
Yes.
So in the process of the Electoral Commission of Zambia coming up with a program for their election for next year, they can actually look at the numbers. Now Zamstats have given them the numbers to say in Lusaka, perhaps we've got more people than Southern Province. We've got more people than Copperbelt. Copperbelt has got more people than Luapula. But in terms of the areas, the concentration of population, you can now start changing the sizes, changing the sizes, the boundaries of the constituencies, maintaining the same 156. There is nothing wrong with that. So ideally, the perception that now people have, the questions they are asking is, does it mean that government want to delimit to cut constituencies? Because as of yesterday, I saw a post by Honorable Mausamba indicating that the UPND shall ensure that there are 30 from the 94 constituencies, there are 30 that shall be in UPND strongholds. Now, the question is, if you are going to introduce proportional representation as an electoral system, you should tell us how you are going to do it. Because it simply means that you are not going to do away with voting for a president who is a leader of a political party by way of casting a vote. We are now going to introduce a system where we are voting for a president by way of constituencies that a particular political party has won. So if UPND would have won, for example, 200 seats, and this next opposition wins, say, 50 seats, it means whoever has got more constituencies will have won the presidency, like it is in South Africa. You see, that is the system our colleagues.
That's the system that's what they use in South Africa.
But unfortunately, that system does not produce a majority president. It produces a president that is on the basis of the number of constituencies. So if our colleagues with the smaller numbers in the southern region of the country decide to have more constituencies, they will have a president. However, it's not going to be a majority president.
Okay. Here's the argument that a few people are sending me messages, and people are asking to say, did the PF, when they presented the Bill 10 amendment clause to the Constitution, did they use the stipulated process that the Constitution mentions, the historical background that you have given about where you come up with a terms of reference, Constitution Review Commission? Did they handle the Bill 10 process like that?
Yes, so that was what happened with the PF process. However, it was now an issue of trust. The UPND and opposition stakeholders indicated to say we cannot trust the bill that the PF will present because they may sneak in certain provisions that do not augur well. So it was an issue of now the content for our colleagues. But now we're looking at the process. We may not have a problem with the content. Now we are looking at the process. A process, a constitution making process that does not engage stakeholders is one that will result in an illegitimate constitution, one that is not going to be widely accepted by the Zambian people, one that is not going to have the legitimacy required in a constitution. Remember, when you look at the current constitution, we have said we, the Zambian people, give ourselves this constitution. So it should not be we, the UPND, or we, President Hakainde's cabinet, give the Zambian people a constitution. No, we're looking at an all-inclusive constitution, one that comes as a result of consultation. Remember, dynamics change with time. We cannot rely on submissions that were done 15 years ago.
Of course.
Now things have changed. As a matter of fact, we now have cryptocurrency that has been booming in the country. Unfortunately, we've got a minister of finance who may not even have an idea about what cryptocurrency is. That is where we are. This is a form of business that is not even taxed in the country. Imagine the billions of dollars that people are receiving in this country untaxed, because we do not have a mindset that understands that times must evolve. So ideally,
are you telling me that cryptocurrency business is thriving in Zambia?
oh yes, it is thriving. It is thriving.
And the government doesn't have a system of, like, you are trying
There's
to
no
say,
system of control. I will tell you that if you have to send me $1 million in USDT, I can still move it into my account without paying any taxes. That is how unfortunate we are right now.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. So with what I have told you, what I'm saying is there is need for a dynamic change. There is need for consultation to be done in order to have a constitutional amendment that will live to the expectations of the Zambian people. That way you will have a people-driven constitution, not a cabinet-driven constitution.
Okay. Here is this conversation. I do not want us, whatever we are saying or talking about, to move away from how anything and everything affects the youth. Okay. Here's my next question. How will amending the constitution by adding more constituencies benefit the youth? Because that's part of the thing they are trying to do, right?
So we had a president on record on Youth Day and on Women's Day indicating that we need to amend the constitution because we want to provide for provisions that will allow the youths to participate more in the governance of this country. But for me, I will tell you it's a fallacy. What we need is a deliberate government policy, because this constitution that we have, when you look at Article 259 of the Constitution, it actually provides. I don't know if you've got the constitution there with you. We can look at Article 259 of the Constitution has provided that a person in a position of authority to nominate or to appoint should ensure that at least 50% nominations or appointments are as a result of 50-50 representation of women and men. So the question is, has that been done? Because this constitution is a 2016 constitution. Has that been done? And the answer is no. Do you know the reason why? Because we've got a leadership that does not care. There's a leadership that does not want to follow constitutional provisions. And they do not have a deliberate policy to ensure that more women occupy positions of authority. We have 8 nominated members of parliament by this president. You know that it's only 3 that he has nominated. In fact, it's only 2 that he has nominated, which forms of 25%, not even close to 50%. Very unfortunate. So the same provision has provided that the youth representation and people who are marginalized, like the disabled, should equally be part of the system on an equal basis. But do we have that? Were the youths engaged by this government? The answer is no. Not even a fraction would show to say this government cares for the youths. But these are provisions that are already there. I was telling someone to say this president was not supposed to be allowed to make that speech at that place because this was a misleading speech, because we already have constitutional provisions for that. It should not be the basis for us to amend the constitution. We already have proper provisions providing for that. So whatever the president said is a joke. It's a slap on the face of the youth, because the provisions are there. There is no government policy which is deliberate to look at the needs of the youths. So today, if government comes to anyone telling them about youth representation, telling them about taking care of the youth, it is a fallacy, it's a joke. It is only meant to ensure that they have more votes and retain power.
Okay, the president, when he was talking, he lifted some papers in his hands and said, no one has even looked at this draft constitution. Has it been made public? Does anybody know what is in that draft constitution?
And unfortunately, I will tell you that this is the most disorganized government, to the extent that they do not know what they say. They do not know how to coordinate with information. In the morning, they'll say this by the president. The Minister of Information will say this, who's supposed to be the chief government spokesperson. The line ministry will say another thing. So there's so much information distortion in this process. So you'll find that the president said there's a draft. The minister comes and says there's no draft. State House reports that there is a draft. So the question is, what are we dealing with? Do we have a draft constitution? Of course, it's not been made public. But the issue is, who made the draft? Who did they consult when coming up with a draft? That simply means it's not going to be a draft constitution that looks at the aspirations of the Zambians. And besides, why is it that they are keen on only amending provisions that deal with the constitution, and they want to call them with elections, and they want to call them non-contentious issues? You can't say anything to do with delimitation is non-contentious, because an election process itself is a contentious issue.
Of course.
So there is a lot of misinformation by this government. I'm hoping that by next week, this government or this president will create a ministry of clarification. Because every time he says something, you'll hear now people trying to clarify what he has said. It's extremely...
Minister of Clarification.
That one is very relevant right now.
Okay. Now, my next point, here we do not court people without presenting proof, okay? When the church mother bodies, according to the church mother bodies, when they approached government after the one election, Celestine, the church mother body says, the government, this is what the government said, okay? I'm going to play a clip here. We don't quote people here. We play video clips. Watch this.
Better to have the constitutional amendments after the elections next year than before. I think it's better that way, because we will tell you that when we approached government sometime back, there was a year or two ago, and said we need to have constitutional amendments, we were told there is no budget and there is no money. Now there suddenly is money and there is a budget. We don't know about that, but the timing is what is not right.
The rushed and hasty constitutional amendment process, we have repeatedly called for comprehensive constitutional review right from the onset. But these members of the press were not given the attention that they deserved. And so why we ask is a drafting of documents being done in isolation without public consultation, and all kinds of things around this matter. So it is our concern. The ever-increasing cost of living for Zambians, the people are groaning under the burden of the challenging economic scenario. The emergence of cadre militants, the wearing of military regalia.
Okay, Celestine. So, according to the church mother bodies, you had Bishop Mwenda there. He's the head of Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia. He says, I think 2-3 years ago, the government said there was no money and there was no budget for that. So do we have the money? And was that mentioned in the budget that the Minister of Finance mentioned about the constitution amendment in the budget?
You saw all this raises a lot of suspicion. It raises a lot of suspicion because all of a sudden, miraculously, magically, abracadabra, government has money to amend the constitution. Now, the way they want to amend the constitution is by way of them bringing to us a bill that we've not had any input in. Remember, like I indicated, the legitimacy of every constitution will come as a result of wide consultation. That is what the church is saying. You have not consulted widely. You'll affect the legitimacy of this constitution. We know right now you've effected by elections in order for you to gain the numbers. Now you are working with the arrogance of the numbers. You've annihilated the Patriotic Front stability. You've gotten more people, more members of parliament, of course, according to me, who are very unpatriotic, and you've got the numbers. So you want to now bulldoze the process. So that does not result into a legitimate constitution. For me, I will say this miraculous finding of money by government should ensure that they just channel that money to ensuring that we lower the cost of living, we reduce or probably we subsidize on the fuel. Because it does not make sense that we should buy fuel at 34 kwacha when in Malawi they are buying fuel at 16 kwacha. It doesn't make sense. And revelations are now telling us that, for example, we are supposed to be buying fuel at, is it $54 million, and yet we are buying at $156 or $60 million. All that gap, it shows how illegitimate or how unserious our government is. Very unpatriotic, very capitalistic. So this process, it's important that we look at an all-inclusive process. We should not let government decide to bulldoze this process by way of just amending the constitution without engaging the church mother bodies, the stakeholders in the country, the youth, the traditional rulers, traditional leaders. Because the traditional leadership, in the process of coming up with a constitution or a draft, you need to consult them. You also come up with a draft in languages that we call them dominant languages in the country. For example, I am Ushi. We need to come up with a draft which is going to be in Bemba, so that we equally read. My grandfather Matanda has to read.
Yeah,
you know, we need to come up with a draft in Tonga so that Chitimukulu has to read. The Chitimu, I mean the Mukuni has to read.
Yes.
You know, so we need to come up with documents that will be all encompassing, and they have to give their input. So there is need for this government to reconsider even continuing this debate. It is one which is very destructive, and it will not result into anything good than bad.
Okay. So somebody is let me see. There was a question. Okay. Uncle Gregory says from the UK, Parliament is so polarized that this August House cannot debate the Constitution in fair and level-headed manner. They are only there shooting down all issues as long as it's not from their grouping. That's what he says. It's not progressive.
Very, very true. Very true. Unfortunately, I'll tell you a very practical example and why I feel we've got a very irresponsible government. Imagine there is a motion that is brought on the floor of the House questioning government to tell them what measures they have to put in place in order to reduce the high cost of living. What
Mhm.
do? The ruling elite in this country decide to walk out of the National Assembly.
Oh, that day they all walked out.
They all walked out. Unfortunately, that is how unserious this government is. So you can't trust such a bunch of individuals to even touch our constitution.
Mm.
So it is too late for them to touch the constitution because they'll not have enough time to consult. All we can do now is let's go to elections. Let's go and remove this government. Then we can look at amending the constitution. For me, I'll say 2026 is the best time to amend the constitution after August elections.
After August elections. Okay, uh, should the government insist on proceeding with this measure? What's Tonse's plan of action?
Well, of course, we've got a lot of avenues. We'll use the courts. We'll go to court. If we have to go to court every day, we shall do that. We have indicated our intention to protest, to have a nationwide protest, which is going to be a very peaceful nationwide protest. Of course, our colleagues in their normal or usual rhetoric, they blocked it. The police refused to grant us that democratic right, constitutional right, to allow us to protest. But we've made an appeal to the minister. But in due course, we shall find ourselves protesting, as a matter of fact. The youth of this country want answers as to which youth the president consulted
Okay.
are on point, listening to the Zambian people. Like I indicated, Tonse Alliance is an alliance for the Zambian people. It is for everybody. So we are there to respond to the needs and aspirations of the Zambian people.
All right. Final question, Celestine, here. Let me see. Some a number of people asked me to find out why you are more focused on mobilizing the youth and you're not talking about your candidacy for Matero constituency seat.
Well, of course, I am from Matero constituency. Whatever it is that I do comes from or emanates from the constituency, as a matter of fact. But you see, I now have a portfolio that of a national character as national youth chairperson for Tonse Alliance. So in terms of mobilization, it is a fact I need to mobilize each and every youth. Like I indicated, it is Mukandala Nabako 73. I shall mobilize each and every youth from all the 73 ethnic groups in this country. All those that are in the ranges of 18 years and 35 years, all these are our block. These are our voting block. The 5.3 million youths. So all these people actually believe in the creed of one Zambia, one nation, in the creed of unity, national unity. So the constituency is there. They love me. I love them. I'm always mobilizing in the constituency. We've come up with structures in the constituency that are working every other day. However, the national mobilization for the youths is equally given priority because we need those votes from the youths.
So you are contesting the Matero constituency parliamentary seat?
Oh yes, no doubt about it. That one we are going in. That one we are going in. You shall find us in the National Assembly come 23rd when we're done voting, 24th, 25th, as they announce the result. We'll be in the National Assembly under Matero constituency.
Excellent, excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was our discussion today. National Youth Chairman for the Tonse Alliance, Mr. Celestine Mukandala. Celestine, thank you, and safe drive going home.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. All right, everybody. So that was our conversation for today. I hope you did learn and pick something. Please follow us on social media, YouTube, subscribe to our channel. A lot of you tell me that, hey, I don't want to miss the episode and everything else. Go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel at ZBTR TV, and you will not miss a single episode when we go live, because you remember to click on the bell so that it gives you the notification and so that you know that ZBTR is live. We shall see you next week, and thank you for joining us.
Keep the flame of Zambia's 60th independence continue to burn with pride. Zambia's Diamond Jubilee has come and gone, but the pride? That's here to stay. Show off your Zambian heritage with our exclusive Zambia at 60 branded t-shirts, bold unique designs crafted just for you, the true Zambian at heart. Perfect for family gatherings, special events, or simply a casual day out, the Zambia at 60 t-shirt lets you wear your pride and share it with everyone around you. Stand out wherever you go. Represent Zambia with style and pride, turning heads and sparking conversations everywhere you are. Ready to get yours? It's simple. Get one shirt at $40 or two shirts for $70. Order today and pay conveniently via Zelle, +1 817 501 1615 or Cash App, Pastor Nate, or email us at zbtr2009@gmail.com to place your order. Don't wait, let Zambia's Diamond Jubilee continue to shine on with every wear. Let's keep the pride alive. Grab your Zambia at 60 t-shirt, wear your pride, and represent Zambia everywhere you go. Get yours today.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.